Welcome back to War Thunder and welcome aboard the Lincoln B Mark II, which is the newly added battle rating 6.0 British heavy bomber. And I think I forgot bombers. Oh, wait, Napalm, you just made a video about the Lancaster B Mark III and just showed us how to fly it. Yeah, but there is a second kind of aspect of heavy bombers, and the Lincoln B Mark II is very similar, but very different at the same time regarding the Lancaster B. The Lancaster is a bit slower and also has less defensive armament. Furthermore, it has a very impressive bomb load. The Lincoln B Mark II that I play here right in the background for 2 matches, both on Hokkaido. I will talk about this in a moment, why Hokkaido, although it should be obvious. Thank you, Americans. Thank you for your steady bomber supply. Well, it is stock. And the stock bomb load of the Lincoln B Mark II is just horrible, horrible, horrible. In fact, you have 3 bomb loads, 2 of them you have to research one. The first one is 14 250-pound bombs, absolutely terrible. We will see in a moment how bad the bomb load really is. The first researchable bomb load is 14 500-pound bombs. That is a massive improvement, but still not anywhere close to what the predecessor offers, the Lancaster. 6 1,000-pound bombs is the top bomb load, but I don't think that I will go to this one after researching it. I will stay with the 14 500-pound bombs. So, I'm approaching here the first bombing target, and yes, I'm going for research points. That is why I'm not going for ground targets, which are also a chancy thing to do. And you see here 2 B-17s, and so it begins. I'm turning into this. Yes, this is how the Lincoln performs. It's absolutely hilarious, awesome, and just fun. Have I talked about the defensive armament? Well, you have 2 times 2 50 cals and 1 dual 20mm Hispanos Mark V's on the top of the plane. And it wrecks stuff hard. For example, this B-17G. It had no chance. I took a little bit of fuel tank damage, but nothing that I could shrug off, really. And yes, I tasted fuel. I tasted fuel. Not just mine, but also the enemies. There is a second B-17, and he sees it coming. But can he actually do something about it? Of course, B-17 packed with 50 cals, especially the G variant, one of my old idols in arcade back in the days, and I just smash him, I hammer him, I set him on fire. Just at the moment that the guns jam, I'm on fire on 2 separate locations. I still hammer him. There is nothing that I can do at this moment, and at this point I thought to myself, you're dead, just make sure you take this guy with him. There are 2 things that you have to keep in mind. If you are a bomber and you have strong armament, hunt enemy bombers. And that is a problem. When you are driving, or flying rather, the British, you have 2 different types of matches. The one with the Americans and the one against the Americans. Against the Americans is the easiest time of your life, period. The one with the Americans, oh boy. And now you can see 2 of my engines are dead, the right hands. And now the death dance begins. I want to land on the airfield that you see down here. And I massively have to fight both the instructor, the damage model, the flight model, which is heavily influenced by the damage, and the instructor. And I just want to not let it spin out of control. Trust me, I'm really micromanaging hard here for the next few minutes, and I just want you to remember that when you look at this right now. I'm a bit excited about this plane because I stopped playing German 6.7 tanks. Be sure that I make a video in the upcoming next few days about the disaster and the train wreck that the German 6.7 teams are, despite the RU-251, because of a massive power creep and overpowered vehicles that nobody has the balls to actually talk about being overpowered. But thank the gods for me. Yes, a bit of Jim Sterling here. I digress, and somebody get triggered by that. I digress. I digressed. Yeah, never mind. Should I edit that out? No. Okay, so you can see here the death fight, and I then unlocked this plane by playing certain premium planes, namely the skill fires. Yes. Some very unique ones with very unique armament, 20mm and 7.7s. Ooh, yeah, we don't have like 10 of them already in the tech tree. The thing is, I kind of did not expect too much of this Lincoln bomber, because I just looked at the defensive armament and the kind of bombload. The bombload is, as I said, yeah, not very impressive. The third engine is dying. Oh boy, that's gonna be fun. And the flight model is really nice. When you're undamaged, it just flies very, very nicely for a 4-engine bomber. Be sure to spade it right now if you intend to spade it, because I think this thing will get nerfed hard. Back to the Americans. You can hunt bombers. As you saw, you just bombed the bombing point by, diving in slightly, not too hard, because you need to keep the altitude. You need to be like, you can sacrifice like 500 meters up until the point to the target zone, and then you have to turn around and be sure that you have the planes on your back. So I'm about to, get into the warm watery grave. At this point, the instructor just pulls the plane down. There was nothing that I could do. 3 dead engines, that's all that I could do. So, on to the next match. James, same procedure as every Hokkaido? Yes, please. So, again, you see where I'm aiming, and this time I think I have the bigger bomb load, if I'm not mistaken. It took an awful long time to research the first bombs, which I began to research as my first module. Thankfully, it's a tier 1 module. But, the increased health of the bases do not really play into this plane's favor. So there you can see actually the cockpit and the exhaust flames. I love the look of this plane. I love the bomber sound. I just have a sweet spot for bombers. I think you noticed it in my Lancaster video, and I kind of want to play planes or bombers a bit more aggressive. In arcade I had different playstyle regarding the bomber. Here in realistic it's more all the same. You fly nearly every bomber the same way. There are a few exceptions, but yeah. The next thing is the A26. Oh boy, do I hate A26. I hate flying with Americans. And what you see me here, actively kind of putting myself in a disadvantageous position, in respectively talking about my positioning towards other bombers. It is fun. It's active. I am putting down another bomber. Spitfires are excellent anti-fighter fighters. They are not so good against bombers. They still can put them down, don't get me wrong. A clean approach and so on. But if you are in the hail of the 50 cal defensive fire of a B-17, it's very likely that you receive fuselage damage, engine damage. You might get even set on fire, and you lose your fighter that you otherwise could have used to take down a few other bombers. And there you can see the wonderful performance of my defensive firepower. Practically I have the same firepower as one of the Spitfires. Yes, the Prendergast Spitfire FR Mark 14E. Although I have Hispano Mark 5s and not Mark 2s. And you can see he is burning bright. He tries to damage me, but my engines are rather resistant. So at this point I thought to myself, yeah, I've done my job. I put down an enemy fighter. That's most likely more than a few fighters even can do on a regular basis. And what you see me doing here is as mad as Admiral Hipper turning around for the 3rd time in the Skagerrak Schlacht, or the Battle of Jutland, into the hail of fire. And some of those players do not really feel well seeing a bomber turning around towards him. What madness is this? Especially when it's the new patch that's just a few days old. They have not really gotten onto their PC and played so far. And they might think there is something weird about the behavior of this guy. But in fact, it was just to drop bombs on, the bombing point, because 11 500-pound bombs were not enough. No, it had to be 13 indeed. And the last one I dropped on the crossroad, maybe to hit a tank. I do not really have a use of another bomb at this point, and I'm turning into this. This B-24 is sadly too high. Yes, I'm playing around heavily with mech. This bomber has easy access to mech. I love it, how it works out. Controlling all four engines at the same time is something that I think is very nice to have, especially because you rely on web all the time, and the additional track from the flaps, and also not the flaps but the engine cowlings. It's better to have web than no drag and less engine power for the speed a bomber is going. I have to point this out. For fighters, especially in top speed scenarios, it's completely different. But yeah, I tried to shoot this B-24 above me, but I can't get guns on me. It seems like both the 50 cal gunners and the 20mm gunners have limited firing arcs upwards, so it's not like a B-17, which is kind of a shame. It would make this plane so much fun. And yeah, this B-24 pilot is not really thinking about doing me any favor. He actually greets me in chat here, hey, and I'm getting the hell out of here. But now I'm turning around again. So, what you can see me here seems all skillful, and it seems like nice and, madness. But in reality, that's what you have to do when you have such a bad bomb load. And which kind of bomber reminds you of that? Huh? Which one? Yeah, the Japanese top-end prop bomber, the G8N1, fakely named by certain people as being a Death Star. Funny people, really. Now, I think you just can name one vehicle a Death Star. If everything is a Death Star, then, what's the point? Putting that banter a little bit aside, you just have to see the point here. You don't do this with Japanese teams, especially with the battle rating of 6.0. You have some nasty planes in the Japanese and the German tech tree as well, if you want to pull this off. You don't do this against a Kia 87 or a J7W1 or a Kia 84 High. And those are just the planes, single engine prop fighters at your battle rating. I have not even mentioned the Kia 83 or the Kia 84 Otsu, even the Kika, or when you are fully up tiered, the R2Y2s, the arch nemesis of any kind of 4-engine bomber. Then for example, also the Russians, they have some impressive firepower. LA9 and also the Yak-3 VK-107, even the Spitfires or the Yak-9 UT, Yak-9 OP, Yak-9P, they can do that. They can easily take on you. The Americans, well, on paper they have a lot of those planes as well. However, people seem to forget how to use them, really. I'm not making this up. This is something that it's just so easy to fly against Americans. I don't want to, point the finger at one nation and say those are bad players because they perform bad. I think it's some sort of interaction. If your vehicles are bad, the good players don't want to waste their time, dealing with it. And then they go to the nations with better vehicles, because then they can play more competitive. So, and I'm here interrupting the turn fight of two Spitfires with my heavy bomber. I'm not saying that I like it, but I really enjoy it. So, time to switch the view and turn around to re-engage the Spitfire. If you would be this premium Spitfire guy, what would be your thought? What the hell? Heavy bomber turn fighting me? What is this madness? Which kind of noob just does this? And yeah, he tries to fire at me and actually turns below. Good decision. If he would have kind of climbed behind me, he would have opened himself in full profile to my 20mm Hispano Mark 5s. Again, those are Hispano Mark 5s. Incredible rate of fire, incredible trajectory, good shells, although I still have to unlock the belts. But even the stock belt, half of the ammunition is usable. Yeah, and I'm just slowly but steadily ruining this guy's flight performance. Sadly, at this point, the stock belts for the 50 cals are not unlocked. Yeah, so you can see what this bomber is capable of doing. Keep this in mind. This is so much more fun and so much more rewarding than just space climbing, you know? Just people that really have absolutely no idea how the game works and gives you rewards do space climbing. Or there are trolls. And again, for all trolls of you out there, fuck you. End of discussion. So, yeah. At this point, then I'm actually thinking about returning to base. But sadly, I can't leave my Spitfire here alone. He seems to be in a disadvantaged position against a premium American Mark 9, which needs so much skill to make work. And he actually shoots down my Griffin Spitfire, if I'm not mistaken. Spitfire F, yeah, must be a Griffin. So, and he runs away. A Spitfire running away from a bomber. Oh, War Thunder. I love it. Yeah, again, I have to point this out. I'm a very experienced bomber pilot back from my arcade days. I overcome this fear in terms of, fearing fighters in general. Sometimes there are opportunities, and believe me, when they occur, I use them. Of course, there are limitations and so on. One of them at the moment is that 2 of my engines scream for oil like an American government. And yeah, at this point I'm in serious doubt if I can make it home back to base. But again, let's summarize at this point what you should do in terms of making a bomber work. There are, with heavy bombers, or with especially the Lincoln, or like the Japanese G8N1, there are 2 ways of making them work. You dive a little bit to get an extra speed advantage over your potential enemy bomber. Then you drop the bombs on the mini base, or if there is no target in range, you just drop it to get extra performance. And then you turn around while the enemy bomber flies into you. Again, this just works against beginners or not skilled people in general. And then you just shoot them and you try to kill them. And that is a service for your team. Because taking out a bomber, especially at this time where we have those incredibly strong bomber hit point pools in their wings and the structure of the fuselage, it's giving your team a valid support. And then, just try to interact. Against Americans, it's so easy. With their 50 cals and maybe even not so many cannons, you can pull it off. Believe me that. And it's also much more fun and much more rewarding. In this case, now it begins the time where I kind of repeat the stuff that I mentioned in my video about the Lancaster Mark III. Oh my, the first engine has a complete failure. This is, by the way, the cockpit, and the look, how you sit in this pilot seat of this Lincoln bomber is absolutely amazing. I love it. I have a sweet spot for bombers, if I have not mentioned it like 10 times. And they just have a completely different feeling. With fighters, what do? Yeah, you climb, yes, you turn fight, you shoot down the enemy, you get shot down, you hunt the last enemy bomber for an hour or something like this. Woohoo, so much excitement. With bombers, a lot of criticizers or haters say, yeah, use that altitude, drop your bombs, and that's repetitive as well. It always depends how you actually use a bomber. And again, I have to point this out. This just works against the Americans. God bless America. And yeah, you don't do this against Germans or Japanese. You just don't. As I mentioned, also the Russians, you don't do this because they have planes specifically designed to take on bombers. But again, this is a heavy defensive armament if you know how to use it. You always should be below your opponent, which is counterintuitive. Bombers, again, with such a kind of defensive armament, you should put yourself in a position where it's favorable for the enemy to take an attack run on you, because then you have the best position of your guns to shoot at them back, which is practically the only way to take them down. So, I know this sounds all weird and it seems like I repeat myself, but this is how you can spade bombers in realistic, especially when you have heavy armament, you are rather slow or 4-engine, you can take the fire, and you don't have the bomb load to actually influence the outcome of the battle in this respect. And that practically describes the Lincoln. While it kind of looks like it's just another version of a Lancaster, it plays completely different. And in my opinion, the battle rating of 6.0 is more than justified. You can even put it at 6.3 against props. But now you have the problem of interacting with jets. And Me-262s, well, yeah, they make short work out of you if they know how to fly it. Again, if everybody would know how to fly every plane the best way, then you would be the noob, or I would be the absolute noob in this respect. And I make the landing, and I have to say this bomber just flies so beautiful. It has such a beautiful, beautiful flight model. The instructor actually behaves. I mean, there are interferences, but he behaves. And I stop the engine, turn around, come to a standstill, and just repair. At this point, I was the last player alive, and yeah, I didn't think that the Spitfire would chase me down, and so I actually choose to bail out. Of course, I would have loved to show you kind of an ace carry like in the B-34 against the Japanese. You can find this video on my channel, but again, it's not very likely, and this is a tip or a lot of tips for your average normal battle that you might play yourself as well. In this respect, I think that's it for me today, so thanks for watching, thanks for listening, give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other in the skies of War Thunder.